We interrupt this program to bring you...
Hello?
Hello, Sidney. Remember me?
What do you want?
I want you. It's showtime.
Then why don't you show your face, you fucking coward?
My pleasure. All right, everybody. My name is Kevin.
And I'm John.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Julie.
And we are the Real Movie Guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Review, the series where we review and discuss all your favorite movies. Ladies and gentlemen, it's October, so you know what that means. Real Terror Month. Real Terror Month is a special month where we take a look at all your favorite horror movies. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at Scream 2. 2 years after the first series of murders, as Sidney acclimates to college life, someone donning the Ghostface costume begins a new string of killings. Okay, guys, so we just came off what I think is considered the quintessential masterpiece of 90s horror, Scream. Would you know it, that they decided they made billions of dollars, that they said, hey, let's make a second one. So here we go, we have Scream 2, and yeah, it's an inferior movie. I think we can all kind of agree on that. It's not as great as the first Scream. Then again, I think it does a lot of things right, but also kind of takes a few steps back within the horror genre for what it is. But at the end of the day, I did have a good time with it. I was happy to see all these characters return. Scream did a really great job of establishing the characters in the first movie, that the ones they brought back, I was really happy to see. And the fact that they actually continued some of the beats and lore from the first movie, I think is really well done. But I feel like it just never gets to the heights for me that Scream 1 did. It just feels like it's almost there, like it's trying to grab it, but it just kind of falls back a little bit. And I have some ideas of what maybe happened there. But before we do that, I want to go around and just talk to you guys. Adam, let's start with you. What did you think of this one?
I do agree. This is the inferior one. Mm-hmm. I still enjoyed it, though, because like I said in the first review, I like the mystery aspect of it, and especially, got a whole new killer or killers going around this time again. So I do like that, and just watching a bunch of people run around screaming, getting stabbed again, it's always an entertaining time, I guess.
Right, and I think the mystery aspect is its greatest hook. That really is what it has it doing here. But we're going to talk a little bit about that too, because I have some things I want to talk about that. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it is still an entertaining film, and overall, if you like Scream 1, I think you're still going to find a lot to like with Scream 2. At least, as far as this sequel, we'll talk a little bit more down the road. But this one definitely. John, how about you? What did you think of Scream 2?
I completely agree with both of you. I like the mystery part again. And I feel like there was parts of this movie where, in the first one, where this movie has some lag time and some stuff that I feel like doesn't make sense for this movie. And I do enjoy that they brought back some of the characters that we knew and started to like. And then in a way they had it twist it up. I enjoyed that, but there's just some things in this movie where you're kind of just like, eh.
Yeah,
I didn't need that.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of beats where there was some extra downtime in this movie. Maybe it was just kind of twiddling its thumbs a little bit, waiting for the next scene to happen. Maybe some of the horror scenes were just kind of dragged out a little too long. Because I know Scream, it's a slasher inherently, but at the same time, this movie felt like it was just trying to drag some of it out just to kind of meet a runtime. And there were some events that you didn't really need necessarily. Scream 2 definitely suffers from a little bit of that, which of course we'll go into. Julie, how about you? What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely agreeing with the general consensus. I do enjoy the mystery a lot, but there is downtime. There's definitely, I guess I'd have to do a count for count. I don't think there's as many kills in this one as the first one, or if there is, there's just a longer span of time in between them, where in the first one, I feel like we were getting hit with a kill pretty often. I do like the psychology that they continue in the second one, where the first one, the two killers kind of use all the horror tropes to their benefit in order for them to get away with crime. They're going to play into these things. Where the second one kind of takes that idea in popular culture or, news media where, these scary movies are creating killers and, so the killer ultimately using that as what he says is going to be his defense in court, because he does want to get caught. He is thriving off of that. And again, taking those same horror elements, but using it to their advantage. And I'm going to make a spectacle of myself because that's what the media believes, is that, these movies create killers. I'm already a killer, but that's what I'm going to make them believe.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the first movie was really a commentary on the horror genre. They kind of took their time just poking fun and, acknowledging the tropes of the horror genre. What makes all these slashers we know today so, legendary in the way they are. Scream 2 kind of takes a similar approach. I think they had definitely toned it down a little bit on like the self-referential aspects of the movie, but at the same time, this movie, like kind of Julie said here, is a commentary, I think more so than anything else, of society at the time, where people were becoming more obsessed with the horror genre. The very opening of this movie, which we will talk about that actually later, but the opening of this movie really kind of just is, if you look at it in like a bubble, is kind of how the directors and everyone viewed fans of the original Scream movie going crazy in the theater and people getting killed and people cheering. Like, how terrible is that culture that we've come to know? If you really think about it, actually, that's kind of how society is now. We cheer when the killer is actually murdering people, and we rejoice in it. And the fact that this movie kind of talks about how society is affected by that, and how maybe the self-defense of insanity is something that can be used in horror movies. It's all the movies' fault. This movie really definitely had kind of an agenda against the Motion Picture Association. They're kind of just telling them, like, it's not our fault if you guys go and do this. You're just psychotic. And I think that's actually ultimately the message of this movie. But that being said, there's also a lot, the cast here, most of the cast does return that survived in the first movie. But what I did notice when I was rewatching this movie is how many like huge actors came out of this movie. Not that they were made famous in this movie, but they were actually huge pieces of the 90s. We had returning actors were like Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, Jamie Kennedy, all those people. At the same time, we got some new people. So the opening of this movie, we had Jada Pinkett Smith, who we all know who that is. Omar Epps, who become a famous actor in his own right. The 90s list is staggering here. Timothy Olyphant becoming ultimately the killer. Sorry, spoilers there. Heather Graham in the movie. I think that's crazy. Liev Schreiber, who was in the first movie as a very young Cotton Weary, he's actually in this movie having a larger role, which I love Liev Schreiber. Sorry, I think he's fantastic. Joshua Jackson making an appearance briefly in the classroom of Dawson's Creek fame. Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy the Vampire Slayer herself. Jerry O'Connell. Again, this is crazy how many people are actually in this movie. Like, every time they turned a corner, I'm like, oh, that's another famous 90s star. And I don't want to say Scream made them famous, because I don't think I did. I think a lot of them, their other works made them more famous, but it's just fun to see. It's like a little time capsule of the 90s as far as actors. I know, Julie, you enjoyed seeing a lot of these actors, especially a lot of them are involved in like Kevin Williamson productions, like Dawson's Creek and whatnot, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then we would actually see them, Sarah Michelle Gellar, she would actually star in I Know What You Did Last Summer. So again, you see some kind of these offshoots where even Scream itself had kind of these like weird spin-off movies that weren't actually Scream, but they were still attached. But what Scream 2 does, I think, ultimately is they found a success, right? They found out what works, so they kind of did the same thing again. Adam, do you think this movie contributes other things besides just kind of doing the same thing again? Do you think there were other things here?
That's a tough question.
It is, because that's what I found myself kind of having a hard time trying to figure out myself, where what else did this movie do that the first one didn't?
I don't know. I thought there was a lot of, I just enjoyed the mystery aspect of it again, but it essentially felt like not much happened in it, aside from, people dying and getting stabbed again.
Right, and I feel like this one, do you think it felt smaller in scale? Because I felt like, for me personally, and maybe this is a knock against the movie, I felt like there was less urgency in this movie, even though there should have been more urgency. Because I felt like the first one was definitely scarier than this one.
Yeah, there's definitely a different tone in number 2, as compared to the original. I just feel like, I don't know, it felt like the first movie, even though it was like maybe, I don't know, was it a couple hours? Mm-hmm. It definitely like that felt like a hearty movie. This one, it definitely didn't feel as like, I guess, full, if you will.
Right, and I think that kind of contributes overall to the mystery here, because now do you think now we talked about a little bit in the first movie, we didn't go into super detail about it, but in the first movie I think there was enough breadcrumbs for you to kind of figure out what was going on, like who the killer was. Now would you say you felt that in the second one too, that there was really enough evidence to kind of put it together?
No, not at all. Because I guess when we got the first reveal, I was like, oh, it's whatever his name was from like an hour 45 minutes ago that I have never seen for the rest of the movie. Like, oh, how was I supposed to get that?
Right, I think Timothy Oliphant, he kind of nails it as a crazy person. I just gotta tell you, I do love him. He's fantastic, but I think his reveal is a little left wanting, right? I really do. I just was like, oh, you're the killer. Okay, I guess that's fine. I mean, there were like little hints here and there. I know Julie's ready to jump in on this one.
I am, yeah. Well, it's tough because it's hindsight's 2020. I've seen this movie before. I feel like the first time I was definitely more taken aback. But upon this viewing, the major red flag to me was like, as I guess now the climax is building up and things are moving at a quicker pace, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, we haven't seen Mickey in a long time. Where when you think back to the first movie, you are always either with Billy or Stu. One of them is always in a scene, pretty much. So I'm like, all right, it has to be him. And then there's other things too, when Jerry O'Connell's character, he runs into the house after Sidney and he gets attacked by Ghostface, and you could tell it's a superficial thing. And then you see Mickey's kind of planting the breadcrumbs like, oh, that's weird. He went in after you and he like barely has a scratch on you, Oh, don't they say it's always the boyfriend? So you could tell he's trying to mess with Sidney to turn her against her boyfriend and other things like that. So, but again, it's hindsight's 2020. Did I notice that the first time? Not at all.
No, and I think the interesting part you bring that up is you have in the first movie, you have the killers. They're throughout the plot. They're kind of trying to misdirect you against them, which I think is very interesting. The fact throughout the whole beginning of the movie, they're trying to tell you that Billy is the killer, but it's trying to be obvious, like, oh, Billy, they're trying to make him pretend he is the killer, but he actually really is the killer by the end of the movie. It's like a weird misdirection, right? They're trying to tell you he's the killer by showing you all this evidence, but at the same time, you're like, no, it's her boyfriend. He loves her. It can't be. And then you kind of have Stu as the backup.
It didn't match.
Right. I know. And it's funny because the movie kind of throws all these clues at you, but it actually really does end up being him.
Reverse psychology.
Yeah, it's a reverse psychology. But here with Timothy Oliphant's Mickey, Mickey's kind of there guiding. He's not really in it as much. Like I said, like I think in the other movies, like Billy and Stu, they were integral to the plot. Like they were always kind of there, and they had like these weird references and these weird looks. Mickey never gives me a hint of anything, really. Just kind of like you said, like maybe that one piece of dialogue there. And I think there's like another scene that's kind of similar to that. But it never felt like an earned reveal. And what do you think, John? I know you're being quiet over there. What did you think? Did you think Mickey made sense as being the first killer? We're going to talk about the second killer, but the first one's the most important.
I mean, yeah, I kind of agree with what you guys are saying. I feel like they didn't lay too much to the foundation to it, where it wasn't like, I mean, it was a surprise, but you were kind of like, it wasn't as great as the first one would have been.
Right. And I think it ties into the movie. I think it ties into the plot just fine. And again, what they were going for. And if there was one killer, I think I would have been fine. But then we kind of get the second killer, where I think that really becomes the problem. And it's just Billy's mom. Then I'm like, oh, okay, sure, I guess. How about you guys? I want to go around. Adam, I thought that was just really out of left field. I really didn't think there was really any kind of credence to that reveal whatsoever.
I agree. I think it should have just been the one killer, because I'm just like, really, we're doing this again?
And it was just corny. It was just really corny as fuck for no reason. Really was.
That's exactly what it was. It's just like, come on, like, I don't know. Maybe if she was just the killer, maybe. I don't know.
Right. I think individually they work, but I don't think together they kind of make sense. And the fact that, like, Sidney, like, oh, Mrs. Loomis? And like, what? That's Mrs. Loomis? Oh, it's called like whatever. She like lost weight or something like that. She like slimmed down. Like,
she goes, it's a makeover, sweetie.
Like, what? Really? Because Gail actually knew who she was. She wrote a whole book on her. You think she would have been able to like recognize her somewhat to some extent. That blows my mind.
I wish the two of them at some point probably like crossed paths as Ghostface,
Right.
and they're like, oh, what? I would have loved to have seen that, but that's okay.
Just like, yeah, I think it's just not real well earned. John, what do you think? I don't think that was really the well earned, and that's kind of where the movie, I think, it doesn't jump the shark, but it comes really close for me in that aspect.
Yeah, I think they were trying to pull a page out of Friday the 13th, bringing back Mrs. Voorhees.
Yeah, and you know, and
Kind
that
of
was
one of those things.
yeah, and that's the argument that I would make. I think maybe we'll say in a weird way this was an homage to Friday the 13th. You know, Mrs. Voorhees killing everyone. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know, but again, at the same time, I do think it's a little corny and it kind of takes me out of the movie. Another thing I didn't really like, and this is kind of, I think this gets rectified at some point, is Dewey suffered nerve damage at the end of Scream, where he got shot or he got stabbed by Ghostface, and in this movie he's like walking with a limp and his arm's all weird. Don't know why that was really necessary. They actually do fix it down the line at some point where he just doesn't do it anymore. I don't think they even bring it up as to why he was doing it. David Arquette's not the best character actor, I'll say, for the fact where he's just kind of walking normal sometimes, and then he's like, oh shit, I gotta have a limp, and he starts like limping and keeping his arm like that. I don't know, just a bit of unnecessary like character there.
I guess, I don't know if they added these things in later to like justify it, but I love at one point Randy goes to him like, what's up with the limp, man? Didn't you get stabbed in the back?
Yeah.
And there's like nerve damage.
Yeah. I wonder if that was like David Arquette's idea. I could see him definitely being like, oh, let me add this to my character.
But then it gets even better because at the very end, as they're wheeling Dewey out, you hear, you know, a paramedic go, oh, it's the scar tissue in the back saved his life.
So stupid.
That's why he had it.
So
that
stupid.
Scar tissue, man. If it wasn't for that scar tissue, he'd be a dead man.
Yeah. It's really strange. And then Lee Schreiber's inclusion, again, I do like him as an actor, as a Cotton Wary, who was the accused killer of Sidney's mom, who Sidney mistakenly thought he was the killer, but he actually wasn't the killer. Now he's just like a money-hungry guy who wants to be a star. Like, you owe me all this money because you sent me to prison for a year of my life. Blah 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 blah. I don't know. Did anyone else really enjoy that subplot? Adam, did you like that kind of tie-in?
I mean, the only thing I really liked was like, ooh, it's Sabretooth.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
That's about it, though.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of corny, too. I didn't really need that tie-in to really tie that much into Sidney's story. I guess I didn't really need that. Yeah, it's just strange. But the rest of the movie, I think they do a fine job. I think a lot of the kills are actually pretty interesting in this movie. There's one with Sarah Michelle Gellar, which I think is really fun. She's really not in the movie that long, which I'm really surprised, especially with how big of a star she would turn out to be, where she's kind of in the sorority house and Ghostface is like lurking her. And they kind of do the reenactment almost of the original Scream movie at the cold open, kind of. They kind of set the tone there with that. And Ghostface just chucks her off a roof, and I think that's really fantastic. But the real scene we're going to talk about is right now. We're going to jump right into the Real Terror Award. Real Terror Award is a special award that we present to our favorite kill of the movie. Adam, it's on you today. What are you going to say is going to be the best kill in the movie?
Okay, so the best kill has got to be, you know what? Out of the two in the opening, I got to give it to Jada Pinkett Smith's character as Maureen. I mean, yes, her boyfriend at the time, Phil, played by Omar Epps, he also, I mean, getting, stabbed through the door of the stall and then, dying on the bathroom floor. What a way to go. That's pretty bad too. I think if you really break down Maureen's death, because she thought that it was her boyfriend killing her the whole time. Mm-hmm. That is just crazy to me. And then they're going to see, what is it? Stab, yeah. Yeah. So it's just, then everybody's already dressed up like Ghostface. So it's just, and then just the fact that all of a sudden her boyfriend dies in the bathroom, and then another guy, the killer, comes back over, sits right next to her, and she literally thinks it's her boyfriend, and then she's like, she just puts her head on and gets her.
Yeah, and then she's on top. She climbs. She walks to the front of the screen. And she's like, no, she's like dying and she's bleeding all over the place, and the fans are just looking at her like, yeah, like kind of like cheering about it. Again, I think the commentary in this opening scene is fantastic. It kind of is like what the first movie did. I would say it's like on par with the strength of that scene. It's memorable. Scream 2, if nothing else in this movie, and I'll be honest with you, I barely remember what happens in Scream 2, minus the opening of this movie, because I really think it's really that great of an opening where it really just is, again, it's extremely horrifying and funny at the same time, but also pretty correct with its commentary about the horror genre at the time, especially the blossoming 90s horror genre, fans wanting more violence and more kills, and you know, that's kind of what it does here. And I think it really is a fantastic opening. And again, I always look forward to the Scream movie openings because that does, again, set the tone for what these movies are going to be. But with all being said, I think it's ready. We put a number on this one, guys. I'm going to give Scream 2 a 7.8 out of 10. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of really weak moments in this movie for me. And again, I do have a good time with it. I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy my time because that would be a complete lie. But yeah, there's just a lot of things. Even characters would even talk about like Jamie Kennedy's character surviving to this movie and then just kind of dying off screen and being in a big puddle of blood. You know, that doesn't really do it. It wasn't really a great death for a legacy character, in my opinion. But overall, there's a lot of things this movie does do. I think the camera work is still fantastic. I think the humor is still there. It's just the story didn't feel as focused on as it did in the first movie. Like they had a more of an idea of what they wanted to talk about, but the execution left a little bit to be desired as far as the storytelling. That's only going to set the tone for the rest of these movies as we go on. And we'll have to see what we think. But I think Scream 2, I think if you enjoyed the first one, you're going to have a good time. There is something to be here. The mystery is intriguing, if a little bit confusing. But I think if you like these movies, this is going to be for you. John, let's go with you. What do you think of this one?
I'm going to give this one a 7.
Hey, I think I love you, so what am I so afraid of? I'm afraid that I'm not sure of. A love there is no cure for. I think I love you. Isn't that what life is made of? And though it worries me to say.
I feel like it was overall a decent movie. I feel like them breaking out in song in the middle of this movie kind of drove it down for me. I don't really need singing in my horror
I completely
movies.
forgot about that, to be honest, until you just brought that up. Wow, I mean, I would have knocked it down a few points.
I enjoyed that scene. I thought it was fun.
It was so long and outdrawn. I was just like, all right, this is garbage. But overall, I thought it was a decent movie.
Yeah, again, it's a slasher movie. John, we've talked about a lot of terrible slasher movies on this channel, and this really doesn't even scratch the surface of some of those movies. There's still a lot of enjoyment to be here, even just for the 90s cheese. I think there's still a lot of enjoyment here. That singing scene, I can't believe I forgot about that. Ugh. All right, Adam, how about you? What do you think of this one?
I'm going to give Scream 2 a 7.6.
Okay, let's get down to business. The way I see it, someone's out to make a sequel. You know, cash in on all the movie murder hoopla. So it's our job to observe the rules of the sequel. Number 1, the body count is always bigger. Number 2, the death scenes are always much more elaborate. More blood, more gore. Carnage, candy. Your core audience just expects it.
I still enjoyed my time with it, even though the mystery wasn't as fun this second time around as it was with the first one. But it was still great. I mean, like you said, I do enjoy the 90s cheese and all of it. So I still had a good time with it.
All right, so Adam, you're still locked into the series. You haven't jumped off yet.
Hasn't lost me yet.
Okay, well, we got time for that. All right, cool. All right, Julie, how about you? What do you think of this one?
I'm going to be giving Scream 2 an 8 out of 10.
See, I've got my whole defense planned out. I'm gonna blame the movies. It's pretty cool, huh? It hasn't been done before. You see, this it's just the beginning, a prelude to the trial. That's where the real fun is, because these days it's all about the trial. Can't you see it? The effects of cinema violence on society. I'll get Dershowitz or Cochran to represent me. Bob Dole on the witness stand in my defense. Hell, the Christian Coalition will pay my legal fees. It's airtight, Sid. I'm an innocent victim.
You're a psychotic.
Yeah, well, shh. That'll be our little secret.
While it's definitely nowhere near the original, I still had a really fun time with it. Some of the kills were really cool. I do like the reveal of Mickey, while it isn't as earned. I like his whole little monologue at the end. I thought that was fun. And yeah, some of the sequences, like, again, another memorable opening to a Scream movie, which, you know, a movie's more than its opening. But overall, like I said, I had a fun time. I enjoyed seeing our returning characters. I enjoyed most of the new characters. We'll see, you know, how we go with the rest of the series, because it gets worse before it gets better. But, you know, overall, Scream 2 was a fun time.
Yeah, I think it's worth a watch. I mean, really, that's kind of the highest recommendation I can give with it. If you enjoyed the first one, I think you're going to like this here. It's just, unfortunately, there's some things I think that just don't live up to the hype, you know, and that's kind of what ends up happening to a lot of horror sequels, where this was so in demand. I think this was made within a year after the first one, so you can tell like how quickly the turnaround was on this movie, and I think it does show. I think the dialogue itself was kind of snappy, and a lot of the things that did work in the original Scream do work here. The only problem is it's super predictable. I think you can kind of realize, like, we saw it kind of happen in the first movie. Where it kind of poked fun of that predictability of the horror genre, this movie kind of leaned into what it was making fun of, creating this weird subtext of like, okay, we're making fun of the horror genre, but we're still doing what we kind of made fun of. Again, it's a weird balance I didn't think they really were able to find in this movie. But again, overall, I do think it's an enjoyable film. But what I want to know is down below in the comments, what do you guys think? Did you enjoy Scream 2? Is your favorite kill the same as ours? Did you like this one? Do you think there's, you know, what are your expectations for the films to come in the future? Let us know in the comments below what you think. But thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of The Real Review. Real Terror Month continues on. My name is Kevin. That's Adam, John, Julie. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. We'll catch you guys next time.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, we should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.